Guys, welcome back. If you're new to my channel or simply not yet subscribed, I'm Brittany and I focus on all things paranormal and creepy, just maybe a little bit out of the ordinary. So before we dive in, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button for me. And today, we're diving into a true crime case, that of the chessboard killer. Alexander Pichushkin was born on April 9th, 1974. Wow, that's really close to my mom's birthday. I did all of that research and I didn't notice that. My mom was born on April 25th, 1974, so it's really close. Anyways, he was born on April 9th, 1974. Mytishchi, Moscow. Well, not much is really known about his childhood. However, it is known that at an early age, an age around 4, he did fall backwards off of a swing. When he fell backwards, the swing on its way back ended up hitting him in the forehead. So after that accident, his behavior ended up changing. Some even believe that his frontal lobe was damaged in the process of the accident, which could explain the aggressive behavior. However, Alexander was also bullied, and after his fall, what was once a very sociable child was now hostile and impulsive. Alexander even spent time in an institute for the disabled when he was a child. He was physically and verbally attacked so much that his mom decided to transfer his school. That is how he ended up in that school. Now, Alexander loved his grandfather. That was probably the most important, I don't even want to say probably, that was the most important person in his life. His grandfather believed that he had more to offer, and he thought that Alexander was highly intelligent, that his talents were just wasted at that school because he wasn't involved in any stimulating activities. So he actually took Alexander in and decided that he would live with him. His grandfather encouraged him to be involved in more intellectual activities when he wasn't in school. And this is when Alexander had found chess. Now, personally, I love chess. I haven't played chess in a while, but I remember thoroughly enjoying chess. He ended up loving the game and was really good at it. It's something that came pretty naturally to him. So he did start playing exhibition games at Briere Park, and here he would play against older men. Now, this was a really positive way for him to control his aggression. It's kind of like an outlet. He could channel any anger he felt into the game, almost use it as motivation. But everything changed when Alexander's grandfather passed away. He had to move back with his mother, and he had to be enrolled as a student once again. And he was just burdened with grief. Like, you lose the most important person in your world, it's going to affect you a lot. And not only that, he was young. He hadn't even graduated school yet. So he was pretty young when he lost his grandfather. And in order to cope, he did develop a drinking problem. Well, Alexander did continue to go to the park to play chess. But while he was there, he started to develop these really dark thoughts. He started out by threatening children that he encountered, and he would record it. And on one occasion, he even held a child upside down by the leg and said, "You are in my power now. I am going to drop you from the window, and you will fall 15 meters to your death." Now, he later did confess that he did push the boy out the window and that this was his very first kill. However, when this case had happened, police questioned him, and it was still ruled a suicide. So apparently he was convincing enough, or the police just weren't very good at their job. I had a lot of interaction with police with my own case that I'll get into at a later date, but it's I feel like you run into that a lot. It's so sad. I mean, I guess, well, like the parents, imagine the parents, they get some, I feel like if your child commits suicide, that you have some guilt, like what could I have done? And when to have that reopened again, him now saying that he was the one to have murdered the child and that police had actually questioned him. Now, Alexander invited one of his friends. This is crazy, you guys. He invited one of his friends, Paul Odachuk, to go on a killing expedition with him. Why you would agree to that? Like, who does that? I mean, obviously he does that, but who does that? But Alexander got mad because his friend wasn't taking it seriously enough, so he killed him. I feel like this isn't a path that you should ever make or offer. But don't agree to one if you get asked, I guess. Like, moral of the story, because he ended up getting killed by his friend for not taking the killing expedition serious enough. Now, Alexander was questioned about his friend's death, but nothing ever came of this one either. And even though Alexander's killing impulses lay dormant for a decent amount of time, once he killed his first victim, it triggered something in him. I feel like is a pattern with a lot of serial killers. Once they do that once, they're kind of hooked. It's almost like a drug. He would kill his victims in Bezefsky Park in the early 2000s. Usually it was older men or people that wouldn't really be missed. He would lure his victims to the park. Something along the lines of, hey, come mourn my lost dog with me at my dog's grave and I'll give you free alcohol. Let's have a drink. Probably not so much like that. I'm sure he was a little bit more smooth about it. A little strange. Now, there might be some truth to the whole dog part. After his grandfather did pass, he did get a dog to help cope, but we don't really know if the dog was actually buried in the park. So he would wait until the victim got drunk. And then he would repeatedly hit them with a hammer or a piece of a pipe. And when he wanted to get rid of the bodies, he would throw them in a sewer pit. Some were even still alive. Yeah, still alive when he threw them in there. So they drowned on sewage. That has to be one of the worst ways to die. Alexander said, I would sometimes wake up with a desire to kill and would go to the woods that same day. I like to watch the agony of the victims. He killed more and more people. Alexander was actually getting frustrated because nobody was talking about it. So he started leaving bodies more out in the open to be found. So he would start being talked about. So after that, his attacks became more violent. He would leave a broken vodka bottle sticking out of the victim's head or a piece of wood, kind of to ensure that they were no longer alive. And it kind of became his signature. And by 2003, residents in the area began to worry that there was a serial killer on the loose. When he would attack, he would always do it from behind. That way, there was no blood on his clothing. He literally killed simply because he had a god complex. Later on, he said, I felt like the father of all of the victims, since it was I who opened the door for them to another world. Like, are you serious? October 15th, 2005, Moscow police found the body of 31-year-old Nikolai Voroboyov. I'm going to butcher all of these names. They had a blow to the head and had a bottle stuck in it. 1 month later, another body was discovered. That of a 63-year-old man. 3 weeks later, the body of Vladimir Dedunkin. 1 week after, another body. By Christmas, 7 bodies had been found. None of them were robbed, and all of them had severe head injuries, and either a piece of wood or a vodka bottle sticking out of the head. Due to the seriousness of these crimes, the case was turned over to Moscow's elite murder squad. And in February 2006, senior investigator Andrew Shreneko was put on the case. But there was no clues who was responsible. Like, they knew that this was the same person, but there was no leads as to who this could be. No fingerprints, no traces. So they decided to get the help of forensic scientist Professor Vladimir Voronskov. And when he analyzed the bodies, he noticed multiple injuries to the back and the side of the head, as well as the face, pointing out the killer's signature. 200 officers roamed this park, questioning literally every individual that they came in contact with to try to pin down this killer, which newspapers were calling Bitsevsky Maniac or the Bitsa Beast. A week later, in April 2006, the body of Larissa Kolgina was discovered. This brought the body count up to 12. 2 months later, in June of 2006, now this would be where the case made the biggest turn. Investigators found a metro ticket in her coat pocket. So they checked all the surveillance of the Moscow metro in hopes to find out who she was with. Now, a 15-year-old boy had come to identify his mother's body. She had been a worker in a supermarket and was 36 years old. Her name was Marina Moskalovoya. Marina was a single mother who lived alone with her son, Sergei. Marina had went out with her boyfriend, Sasha, according to her son, and even tried contacting her son, let him know where she was going. But because he didn't answer, she left him a note with where she was going, who she was going to be with, and a phone number, Sasha's phone number. So when investigators went and they looked it up, it was 32-year-old Alexander Pichushkin, who the number belonged to. And sure enough, when they looked at that metro footage, again, it was Alexander Pichushkin. This was all they needed in order to arrest him and question him for the murder of Marina. On June 16th, 2006, Alexander Pichushkin was arrested. So at first, he denied everything. I mean, most people aren't going to just admit something that they did wrong right off the bat. So at first, he did deny everything, but within a couple hours, he was an open book. He really enjoyed talking about it. He met with her on June 13th and invited her for a picnic. They sat and talked for hours alone. And the entire time that they talked, like they sat there and talked, he was thinking, should I kill this woman or not? But ultimately, in the end, he decided that the best course of action was to kill her because it would have been torture for him to let her survive. What? Again, to the investigator's surprise, Alexander comes out of left field and confesses to 61 murders. Yeah, but they weren't expecting that day. So while he was in custody, the police went and they searched his apartment. There they found something rather interesting. They found a chessboard with the numbers filling out 61 of the 64 squares. Almost like he wanted to fill out all of them, complete the game. It was a game. It's not uncommon for people to keep trophies, things like that, like serial killers to keep trophies of their victims or some memorabilia. So I guess this was kind of his. Now the police were only able to charge him for 51 accounts of murder, attempted murder. 3 of his victims managed to survive. Alexander was taken by prosecution to the crime scene to reenact the murders and show them how he killed his victims. His sole confession wasn't enough for the prosecution. He had to take them to as many of the murder places as he could remember. He did manage to connect the hammer that Alexander provided as a murder weapon to one of the victims. One of the victims' wounds did have bits of plastic in it, which matched the hammer handle. Now, this part irritates me so much. During the investigation, it came to light that in February 2002, there was a victim that had been interrogated by the police. She was a patient at the hospital with severe injuries. Police took her statement. She had met Alexander Pichushkin, she named him, on February 22nd, 2002. She had planned to buy cameras from him, which he had hidden in Bitsa Park, which I don't know. At that point when they're like, yeah, I put him in this location, I would be like, he didn't just bring them with you when you met me, I'm good. But anyway, she followed him up until sewage, when he grabbed her and pushed her in. She fell in, but she did survive by climbing up the sewage. She was stuck in there for 20 hours. Incredible that she survived. Like I mentioned before, there were victims that were still alive when they went into the sewage and they ended up drowning. So the local police decided not to pursue this investigation. 4 years. 4 more years. This guy ended up taking lives because the police were like, this isn't worth it. Not worth my time. Seriously? Guys, 4 years. Literally could have saved so many lives if they just took this woman's claims seriously. It's utterly mind-blowing. And the park had a huge sewage system underneath it. And this is where Alexander said that he dumped over 4 bodies. Even went on to blame the police for not finding the bodies sooner and discovering him. I mean, he did end up starting to leave the bodies out in the open. Alexander Pichushkin's confession was aired on Russian television. He had absolutely no remorse and described his need to kill equivalent to a need to eat or drink water. He even argued that he should be charged for killing more people and that it would be unfair to not account for the other 11 people. I mean, I agree. I think that he should be charged for more, but either way, he would never get out. So on September 13th, 2007, Alexander Pichushkin went to trial and he loved every minute of it. Like, when asked if he had any regrets, he simply said that his only regret was that he was arrested so early because he was already planning another murder at the time that he was arrested. He was convicted in October 2007. A jury deliberated for only 3 hours before finding him guilty on 48 counts of murder and 3 of attempted murder. Sentenced to life in prison, and the first 15 would be in total solitary. I can only imagine that drives a person quite mad, but he's already... To do this, you have to be quite mad, so yeah. But there you have it. The story of the chessboard killer who is never getting out of jail because or never getting out of prison because he is a horrible human being. Luna agrees. If you guys want me to cover more serial killers, definitely let me know who in the comments down below. Also, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button for me. Make sure the little bell's on. That way you're notified every single time I upload with big things coming up and you don't want to miss a single one. I do know that Alexander Pichushkin was theorized to be kind of trying to beat another serial killer, like get more kills than him. One that was arrested, or one whose trial was around the same time that he committed his first murder. That's a whole nother video. So again, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't checked out Sebastian's channel, just type in Sebastian MP, and he really enjoys making the videos, and we really enjoy doing it with him. So if you guys have kids, that is absolutely perfect for you because it's a very friendly, family-friendly channel. So I'll leave that in the description box below. And until next time, I love you guys.